specialist in the Academic Advancement Center. I work primarily on the classic side, the SSS, SSI, AAC classic side of things, coordinating the Arrive seminar for our side, as well as having a caseload of students, and then occasionally get to help out with STEM. Nicolette, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nicolette Pierman. I'm also a retention specialist, but on the STEM program side, I coordinate the STEM Arrive seminar series, and I also work on STEM programs and events, and I also have a caseload of students that I support.
And then I know there's some peer mentors in the group. Peer mentors, can you real quick introduce yourself? Whoever wants to go first.
I'll start. My name's Santiago. I'm peer mentor for the Key Arrive to Traditional. Yeah, I'm a fourth year here studying financial planning. Do I popcorn or just?
The next peer
mentor. So my name is Leslie Alvarez Rivera. I am a group navigator for the AAC Arrive Classic, and I am a sophomore currently studying art education.
All right. Now let's see. We got like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 students. 10, perfect. 10 students today. That's enough time. Real quick, I want you all to run around. You can hop it to the next person, but just introduce yourself real quick with. And there's some folks in here who don't know each other. Name and pronouns, and then your. Let's do one quick area of financial aid or financial aspects of CSU or paying for college. One specific question you might have. Now, I got to see some students submitted questions already, so I have some of those in mind. But if you have a burning, pertinent thing you definitely want me to cover or talk about today, or a question you might have, throw that out there real quick. So your name, pronouns, and if you do have a quick question. I'll loop back around to question and answers for a large part here at the end, but I definitely want to put it out there first, so I'm kind of aware of what to cover. Does anyone want to start us off with that?
Yeah, I can go.
Cool, thanks, Jason.
So, my name's Richard, and the pronouns are he, him, his. And question, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think mine was how could we get the most money out of our financial package from CSU?
Okay.
And
then how to maximize the money that you're getting and how to get maybe more even.
Yeah.
Okay. Pop it to somebody.
Bring it to Katie.
Hi everyone, my name is Haiti. My pronouns are she, her, hers. My question isn't really, it's kind of irrelevant, but I'm just curious. So why is it that the first, when you owe money, right, to CSU, so our first payment is on the 10th. Why is it that the first payment is always so big? It's not oh, let's divide it into equal sections. But yeah, it's what I owe on Wednesday, it's pretty much the whole amount. They should have just charged me the whole amount.
Yep. So the billing statement and how kind of that works, we'll talk a little bit about that. Yep. That's good. That's a good point, because the billing stuff can get complicated sometimes. So cool. Who's next? Oh, Haiti, pop to somebody.
I'll go with Joel.
Hello, my name is Joel, and my pronouns are he, his, and him. This might be a complicated question, so bear with me. So my question is, if your EFC or EFC is 0 for financial aid, does that mean we're expected to get a similar amount of money next year from CSU and both FAFSA?
Good question. Yeah. So once FAFSA was submitted, we'll talk about that, how the EFC gets calculated a little bit, and then if your EFC is 0 or really low, what should you expect from financial aid for the next year or the next semester? Good question. Yeah. Cool. Who's next?
Okay, hello, I'm Kimberly. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I don't know if this question applies, but I think early on in the semester, I spoke to somebody when I did my interview for ACC. Can I join ACC and National Honor Society? Because I know that Honor Society, depending which one you get, sometimes they give you a 5,000 scholarship. And they recently sent me an email to apply, but I don't know if I can have both ACC Key and National Honors or just ACC and Key. And if so, what are the benefits of National Honors and what are the benefits of Key and ACC?
Gotcha. Yeah. So like the ability to join other organizations or programs, especially if they're offering scholarships, how can you do that? Can you be in a lot of stuff like that at once? Good question. Yeah. Yeah, I'll cover that a bit. Thanks. Who do you want to pop it to, Kimberly?
Jason?
If it looks like I'm looking off to outer space, I have another screen. It's just easier for my old man eyes. So my name is Jason. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I guess my question would be, so I'm reaching max financial aid eligibility. So I think I'm at 125% or something, which I think you're only allowed 150. Is that like forever? And are there other options, or do I have to go to student loans from there?
Good question. We'll get close to that max. Yeah, good question. We'll definitely, I can talk a little bit about that. Yeah, nice. Thanks.
Dennis, is it Dennis?
If they're there. Denise?
They typed it into the chat.
Oh, right. Okay, perfect. Okay. How exactly does financial aid and scholarships that carry over in second year look? Okay, yeah, so if you already have certain financial aid, what will carry over to next year, what will get renewed, what might not, that kind of thing. That ties into some of the questions y'all have been asking. Good, cool, okay. Yep, talk about that. Perfect. Do you want to throw it to somebody else? Or if somebody else wants to go. How about Rain?
Hi, my name is and I use female pronouns. And then so there's the Colorado Opportunity Fund, COF. And I was wondering, I had a lot of credits from high school. And I was wondering if there was a way to get more money from them, because DPS was supposed to pay for my COF or for my college classes down there, but they took it out of the COF. So I was curious if there's a way to get more money from them.
Good question. How COF works, and how to get a little bit more. I know a little bit about that. I'm definitely not an expert on COF, but I know a little bit, and I'll hopefully be able to help you a little bit with that. Good question. I'm sure a lot of folks qualify or have received some sort of COF in the group. If you're from in-state, yeah, we'll talk about that. Cool. Do you want to pick somebody else who hasn't gone?
Matthew.
All right, can you guys hear me? All right, my name is Matthew. Let's see here. My main question was, since my financial aid awards cannot exceed the estimated cost of attendance, is it possible to like raise that cost of attendance, especially considering at least the actual overall cost of attendance is much higher than the estimated because of like, unexpected car payments and everything else, including in that. So, I mean, overall question is, can you raise the estimated cost of attendance so you can get more financial aid in the end?
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Well, I mean, yes, good question. Absolutely, good question. We'll definitely talk about that, how they calculate the estimated cost and how that can kind of impact your financial aid, what you're granted versus what actually your expenses might be and the difference there. We'll talk a little bit about that. Thanks. And I think, is Rebecca, are you the only one who hasn't shared yet?
I think so.
Oh, Maya. Cool, go ahead, Rebecca.
Okay, so my name's Rebecca. I go by she, her pronouns. And my question is if you are able to dispute your EFC. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah, similar. And your expected family contribution, it does tie in a little bit to how they calculate the financial aid for you, including the estimated cost of attendance, those two factors, among other things. We'll talk about EFC for sure. Yeah. And then I know Maya, you chatted me, you said your Ash is what's on your screen, but Maya is what you go by. So
yeah, that's what my friends usually call me. But my name is Maya, but my friends usually call me Ash. I use female pronouns, and honestly, I didn't really have any questions, to be honest.
Okay, no worries. Well, cool. Well, hopefully as I get into it, I'm going to speed through some of this stuff, but because I'm going to make assumptions that some of you already might know some of this and others this might be new information, but I am going to go through a lot. This topic could take like 3 days. Like we could spend a lot of time talking, like really dissecting financial aid and financial literacy. So I'm going to try to cover as much of the big important stuff as I can. If you have specific questions, we'll have time at the end for sure. I have set aside a little time for us to cover some more of them. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here in a second. Actually, one second. Make sure I got my presentation pulled up. As I'm going through, if questions do come up as I'm like going through, absolutely interrupt, ask. I'll like even prompt that a few times. Like anybody have any questions about this? Feel free to definitely ask away. Don't hesitate. This is your chance, your time to definitely get as much hopefully answered as you can, and be able to get at least some guidance on where to go if I can't fully answer, or if Nicolette or myself, or even the group Navs, if we can't fully answer your question. So Nicolette might be able to help answer some stuff too, because you also, Nicolette, went through this in the last few years directly as a student, got to experience some of the like challenges that financial aid can sometimes present. Okay, let me pull my screen over 1 second. I gotta try this one more time. Where did it go? Okay. I've got like 16 things going because I also have a bunch of websites I'll share that are open. So I'm trying to, boom. Okay. All right. Financial aid. Perfect. There we go. I think you can all see my screen now. And if you do post something in the chat, I'm going to try my best to keep looking at it. If somebody wants to like give me a heads up, Mitch, there's a question in the chat. If I miss it, just let me know as well. All right, so I'll start here. All right, so financial aid, spring 2021, and which, is it the screen y'all are seeing just the presentation or presenter view mode?
It's your presenter view mode.
Perfect, okay, that's not what I wanted. Hold on. How do I just do it on the screen? I wonder if it's gonna let me do it on the screen only. Nope, it's gonna keep popping over there. All right, that's right. We'll just go with this. You all can probably see it still okay. So financial aid, the first thing we'll kind of go over is we're going to talk a little bit about like just stuff to access on RamWeb. I think a lot of you probably already know that. Most of the information you're going to need initially, at least to like kind of see where your standing is on RamWeb. Talk a little bit about types of financial aid, applying for it. So I'll talk a little bit about like the TSUSA process. And within some of that, I'll kind of go over cost of attendance, like estimated cost, estimated family contribution, those kinds of things, how they can kind of impact you. So start off, as many of you probably know, financial aid information and your billing information, two different things, are going to be available in your RamWeb. If you go to your regular homepage and look at the menu, billing and tax information, if you want to just kind of see where your bill is at, you'll go to the billing information here. There's a button, a link usually it'll have on there to click on to get more specific information. It'll itemize what you're paying. So it'll break down tuition, fees, any other things that have been charged to your account, including two or three big things that come up for especially first year students, which is your housing cost if you live on campus. The CSU bill will charge, like it'll charge it to your CSU bill, right? And your food costs, which can be, oftentimes they're clumped together unless you get like a separate plan, or if you have an off-campus meal plan, go with CSU. And then finally, the insurance, your insurance, if you have CSU's health insurance, it'll get billed on there as well. Now, the deadline to remove CSU health insurance for the semester already passed. They usually either A, if you don't do it in the fall, they'll ask if you want to do it in the spring to remove it. But each year you have up until, I believe it's the second week of class to submit an appeal to remove that charge. It's normally around $1,500, so it's pretty expensive insurance. If you have your own insurance outside of CSU, which I would recommend, it's usually a lot cheaper, then yeah, that's a charge that you'll want to get removed as soon as possible. So you'll contact the Office of Financial Aid, or you can contact the Health Network. There's an appeal process to get that removed. So that's going to all be through your RAM web. On this, there is a helpful link here, understanding my billing statement. This link can, when you click on it, it kind of tries to help explain certain things. So if there's charges that show up that you're not sure about, or if you get an unexpected bill, you're like, oh, I thought this month I was good. You'll definitely want to click on that to at least get a sense, first of all, what's going on. If you're still really confused, the Office of Financial Aid can help answer questions about your bill. Even though you're not paying the Office of Financial Aid when you pay your bill, you're actually just paying the cashier's office. Office of Financial Aid can help you disseminate that a little bit and understand your bill a little bit better if you have questions or concerns. Usually the bill, there is going to be a new billing statement for you every month, each semester. And normally it's around the 10th or the 11th of that month. So the next billing due date actually is this week. It's at the end of this week. And I feel like that's the 12th or something. Yeah, the 12th. So between the 10th and the 12th usually, but usually it's that second week of the semester or of the month at the end of the week. A lot of times the first bill, let's say it's the spring semester, right? The first bill, which was due here, I don't know if you all got charged for January, so this should be your first bill for the semester. It can be pretty big. It's not going to include everything necessarily though, and there's reasons for that. Sometimes charges towards your student account don't get applied until after the first billing due date. And so you might have another billing due date in March 10th or 11th or 12th or whatever, that included something that got billed after they finalized your bill for this part of the semester for this month. So there can be additional charges. Secondly, census. Census is the university date which they determine how many classes and credits you're in, which also then determines a lot about your financial aid. So as most of you should know, the minimum number of credits to be enrolled in to receive any financial aid is at least 6, half time. If you have less than 6 credits in any semester, you won't be eligible for any institutional or federal financial aid. Now, you might still be able to get a student loan, but that's very different than scholarships and grants. So by that census date, which is week 4 of the semester, which is the end of this week coming up, the university looks at your transcripts, looks at what you're enrolled in, and if you're enrolled between 6 and 12 credits, then you will get allotted a certain amount of financial aid, not the full amount that you could get. And if you're over 12 credits, which is considered full-time, you will receive ideally the maximum amount of financial aid you can get. Now, between 12 credits and 18 credits, that's a big number there, between 12 and 18 credits, you're going to get pretty much the same amount of financial aid. You won't get extra financial aid if you're going above 15, 16 credits. They kind of cap it off. But the other part of that is at full time, tuition wise, for the most part, your base tuition will stay the same between 12 credits and 18 credits. You're not going to pay more in base tuition. You might get charged more in terms of class fees if you take extra classes, right? The specific course fees. And you also might get charged what's called differential tuition for additional classes. Differential tuition, real quick, is basically if you're a junior or senior and you're taking classes within your major, upper division classes usually, some colleges have what's called differential tuition, and colleges meaning colleges on CSU's campus, like College of Engineering, College of Natural Sciences, and they will charge a little extra money for the tuition for those upper division classes, right? I think engineering and College of Business have the 2 highest levels of differential tuition applied. Natural sciences and natural resources are like second most. College of Liberal Arts doesn't have too many classes with differential tuition. They exist, but there's not too many there. And I don't know about vet med and biomed where they fall, but I'm assuming because of like the nature of that program, those programs, that it's probably up there with natural sciences, maybe even engineering. So differential tuition is just like extra tuition they charge as you become higher up in your program. It does kind of suck that they do that, but that's also based on you being invested now in finishing your degree, and they can charge a little bit more. That's one of the reasons why they do it. Plus, it's just more expensive the higher up you get with those classes. So that's the only thing you'll get charged extra for beyond 12 credits is course fees and differential tuition if it applies to you. Most freshmen and sophomores don't really have differential tuition applied. So any questions about that?
I had a quick question.
Sure.
So if we see something on our, like from the billing information and we go to like, where it shows everything that we're being billed for, if we think that something is wrong, do we go to the place that's billing us and also call, or just call the financial aid office?
Yeah, good question. So who to contact if you're like, oh, my billing statement's weird, like I don't know what this is, or what this doesn't, I don't think this should be on here, or whatever. Yeah, so usually what it'll have, actually, if you went into billing information, I don't have an actual student account up here to click through and kind of show where that would be. But in RamWeb, if you clicked on billing information and you notice something's kind of wonky, you can contact either the Office of Financial Aid first. I would go to them first. They can kind of help understand that and see, they know who to contact as well within universities' systems about like, okay, this actually shouldn't apply and here's how to remove that charge, or explaining more thoroughly maybe what that charge is and how you can have that addressed basically. Sometimes in RamWeb, depending on what it is, there might be in your homepage, like you have this thing coming up and it's got a red X next to it and your notifications. Sometimes a notification can pop up related to a charge that you also need to fulfill. It's rare that this will happen, but you can take care of it usually right through that notification that pops up on your homepage. That's kind of more on the rare side that you'll see that, because most of the time it's going to just go to your bill and you're going to be expected to deal with it either by paying it or disputing it. And disputing it, the best way to do that is to talk to financial aid to get a little bit more clarity.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, Nicolette, did you have anything to add to that?
No, just to echo, definitely contact the financial aid and let them know that it looks a bit weird. That happened to me when I was a student, and they were able to help me understand like it is wrong and this is why it is wrong. So definitely contact financial aid. They'll be able to help you.
Yeah, every once in a while, we have a really good partnership with financial aid, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But every once in a while, they do sometimes make mistakes. There's mistakes sometimes that come up, and sometimes there's a legit thing that comes up that you weren't aware of that feels like a mistake, and it actually applies to you, which can suck. But that's something to keep in mind. In terms of the billing thing, I also wanted to real quick cover that the idea of like, why doesn't it, the question that came up, why don't they just charge you everything, not just right away, but why are the bills sometimes different amounts? So if you did get billed in January, and correct, like somebody help me out, did the billing statement come out in January for folks? Like, I think so, right? Or no, is the first one February?
The first one's in this week.
Okay, that's what I thought. Usually, so similar for the fall semester, August, we only have like 1 or 2 weeks of class in August. Your first billing due date, right, in August should be like September 10th, 11th, or 12th, somewhere in that range. So the way each semester, right, it works is you'll, for the most part, get most of your bill, like the tuition and major charges usually that are already in play on your account for the first bill. And anything kind of left that sort of pops up either after census or that's in the works right now, will come up in the next billing due date, March. And then if you charge anything to your student account between March or April or May, right, that'll pop up on the next subsequent billing statement due. So you might be able to pay it all off on your first one and be good for the semester. Sometimes it does take to rechecking it and making sure. Now what happens is, for holds and for like your registration and whatnot for your bill, if you don't make a payment, if you don't have your bill paid off essentially by a certain date, and I'll look that up real quick, you will get applied a hold on your account in order to not be able to register for either summer classes or fall classes. Now, it's possible to get that hold lifted temporarily sometimes before you make the payments, but you have to contact the Office of Financial Aid, and it's good to talk to your retention specialist about that. You'll definitely need to be in touch with financial aid about that, but your retention specialist might be able to help you work through other solutions on how to solve that or get that bill either paid or get the hold removed temporarily. Your retention specialist can be a good advocate to help you with that. So definitely talk to them about it. The other thing I will say, and I'm going to give this to you all as students in our program here, the AAC, it is possible that if you have a billing due date, let's say it's this week, and you're not able to like pay it off, your financial aid doesn't fully cover it, and you know you're still going to owe like $3,000, let's say, and you're like stressing out, I don't know how to pay this. It's very possible for within our program, especially with our students, for you to talk to your retention specialist and talk to Office of Financial Aid to get your bill put on hold for a month, where you don't have to make the payment. You can put it on hold, defer it to next month, without getting charged the late fee of not paying it. So some students will just like, I can't pay it, I'm just not gonna pay it this month. They'll put it on next month's bill, but they'll also charge you a little penalty, a little late fee for not paying it the month. For some students, it can be as high as like $150 late fee. I've seen it be that high. They do it as a percentage of your total bill. But it's important that if you're in that situation, I'm not gonna be able to make this payment, even if it's a small amount, even if it's like $200 and you're not able to make it, just let your retention specialist know and talk to the Office of Financial Aid. We can work it out. We can advocate for you to get defer for a month where you don't get charged a late fee, and then try to make that payment the next month. Come up with a plan to make that payment the next month. I've seen it stretch out for a couple of students in dire circumstances for a couple of months, being able to defer it a few months in a row. If the student is really just in a tough situation financially, which we definitely understand and we want to work with you on that. But the biggest thing is just communicate that. So as far as the bill, it can be stressful, but I think it's important to be as open with your retention specialist as you can so they can kind of know and help direct you where you need to go. And the Office of Financial Aid, I promise they might not always be the most helpful, but they are there to help as much as they can. We've got some good people in our corner that work for over there. Any questions about the bill? Okay, I'm gonna keep moving here. One more thing to note, sorry on that, you can also sign up for a prepayment plan. So, right, you can also sign up for, this didn't used to exist, but you can talk to financial aid about how to do a prepayment plan to pay off your student bill in monthly payments. Now, they normally don't do that. They don't offer that openly. But if it would work better for you to break your bill down and do it in monthly payments, you have to do that the beginning before the semester starts with financial aid. Prepayment plan, you're going to then make payments essentially each month to pay off the full amount of student bill. That way they won't charge you the late fees as well. That's another option you can do. But you have to talk to financial aid about that. Okay, the financial aid package, the page that you have on RamWeb that talks about your financial aid package. Couple things here. I know students asked about scholarships, scholarship searching, and like certain ways to maximize or get more financial aid, how your expected family contribution, how your expected cost of attendance all factor in, and COF, that came up as well. So I'm going to try to cover as much of that as I can. All right, so in RamWeb, you go to your financial aid tab, you click on the year, which this year is still the 2020-2021 school year, right? Next year will be 2021-2022. You can click on that year to see what you're maybe even awarded already for next year. You click on awards then, once you're in the right year, this box, and it'll bring you to your award page. You will potentially, in the requirements here for next year, have either A, you're completed and it's like updated and it's good, no other requirements needed, or you might have a red or even yellow notification here in requirements like, oh, you need to do this. This most often happens for students once you complete FAFSA. Once you've submitted FAFSA, sometimes there's additional documents they need, or you've been selected for verification from the federal government, which basically just means you have to do a couple of extra things to get your FAFSA completely submitted to the university. It's a pain in the ass, I know, I'm sorry, but sometimes that'll happen and it'll come up for students. So definitely keep an eye on your requirements here if you have anything. They also put those notifications on your homepage of RamWeb. Like, definitely be paying attention when you get those notifications to your homepage. If you have to do additional things, you're not sure what the heck it is, sometimes they'll have, once you click on it, they'll have a link that'll explain it a little bit more, or the contact info of who to call, who to contact. If you're still lost, talk to your retention specialist. They might be able to be like, oh yeah, that's what this is. Or you can, again, talk to financial aid and they can tell you what that is and what to do. A lot of students, it's just submitting one additional form, like the number of people in your household or something else that was missing from FAFSA in order to get it to go through. Some students have trouble if they have their parents help them fill out FAFSA, or if they have information needed still from parents who need to do like tax information still, that can come up and cause a lot of hassles for students of like their parents just needing to finish something on their end. I know some students have had to really get on their parents or whoever, if that's part of their situation, to get that done so that you can get your FAFSA fully submitted, so then you can get assessed for financial aid. That's the process of how it works. So it sometimes helps to have these conversations multiple times with parents if they're part of this puzzle for you, to get them to get that stuff done or to help them out directly. But yeah, keep an eye out for those requirements. Estimated cost of attendance. This is just a general estimation, and this was from a few years ago, right? So it's been updated a little bit each year, I know. Pulled this from an old screenshot, but basically I think it's up to now the academic year amount. It's now at least over 35,000 estimated cost of attendance for the average student at CSU in-state. That's an important distinction. The average in-state student at CSU. If you're living off campus, or if you have other things you're going to be doing that year, they might not really factor in. So they don't know if you're going to be studying abroad. And that can sometimes cost either less or more, actually, depending on the program in terms of tuition and what is added on to your estimated cost. But housing and meals, this number, it's gone up to 12,000, I know, this year, is based on living on campus. That's like an estimation of what students, and I know it's different depending on which residence hall you're in and what your meal plan is, but that's like an average number, 12,000 a year for what students pay living on campus, about a little over 6,000 a semester, actually. If you live off campus, it can be significantly less than that, or just depending on where you live, it could be more and what you're spending money on, right? But they're basing it off of like an estimation of most students. And then
do they factor that in even if you don't live on campus? Because I noticed it's factored in on mine and I don't live on campus.
Absolutely, yeah, they do. So they also took an average of what it costs students on average to live off campus to pay. Now that recognizes that some students live maybe with family still, especially during pandemic, and haven't paid rent at all. And you might actually be benefiting a little bit from that estimated cost, because the estimated cost might be like also 10 to 12,000 living off campus, but you're not paying rent. So you're actually like, they're factoring in that you might be, but you're not. So you actually might get a little more financial aid there. Oops, let me admit student quick. Okay. So yes, it does factor in an average, like an average estimation. I know a lot of students that live off campus that pay a lot less than 12,000 a year, right? Including for food. Like students can get away with living off campus, paying lower rent. It's still kind of expensive in Fort Collins, but also paying less in food. And that can kind of save you some money, to be honest, rather than living on campus. They also do sometimes factor in things like transportation costs if you have to commute to campus, estimated books and supplies and stuff. Now, again, since this is all an estimate, they're saying essentially you might be paying between 30 and 35,000 a year to attend CSU, broken down by each semester, right? It's a little different there. But that account, that would be how it helps them determine how much financial aid you might be eligible for. Now, there's a couple of caveats here. So once they do the estimated costs and they give you your initial financial aid packet, okay, which is going to include a list of all these grants and scholarships you might get. It's going to include student loans that you're offered. It might include work study if you're offered that. That's the financial aid package. Scholarships and grants, work study if you get it, and student loans offered to you. They also factor in estimated family contribution from your FAFSA, EFC. estimated family contribution is what FAFSA says after you submit your taxes, and if you're dependent with your parents, they submit their taxes or whatever. The total amount that, based on their income and taxes they paid and all that, how much they say, the federal government says the family or yourself should be expected to contribute out of pocket, basically, to your education. And that includes costs like living costs and other expenses. It's bogus, it's flawed and outdated, and it's still being used. I know that in the future, they're actually looking at potentially getting rid of that, the EFC, estimated family contribution, which would help a lot of families and a lot of students. But that's how they're doing it right now, especially to determine federal financial aid. That's a very important distinction. State and institutional financial aid, or private financial aid, like private scholarships, don't take into account your EFC necessarily. It's primarily federal financial aid that is being determined from your EFC. So like federal student loans, federal Pell Grant, federal, actually those are kind of the big ones, Pell Grant and student loans in particular. There's a couple other smaller ones, but that's what we're mainly looking at. Does that make sense? How EFC works? Okay, so when you look at your financial aid packet, and some of you might already have it accessible for the for the fall semester for next year, you're going to get awarded, and I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Where the heck is my? No, where the heck is it? Sorry, view. There we go. Let's go. I'm going to try it. It might be blurry, so just do it. All right, yeah, it's gonna be blurry. All right, whatever. You can read this still a little bit with me. Sorry about that. So a lot of common ones are gonna be like tuition, like grant. They'll tell you it's a grant. A grant is essentially just free money given to you based on your EFC, based on your estimated cost and your circumstances. Grants are great. Always take grants when you can. If you have to like have a grant be minimized or cut a little bit, try to avoid that situation, because grants are no strings attached. Here's some free money to go to school. Tuition assistance grant is a common one. Pell Grant, also the, and I think it's on here, it's Colorado Student Grant, are different grants that might be awarded to you that are going to be broken up from each semester. Fall, $500, spring, $500, and they'll tell you if it paid out or not yet. So it'll also tell you, like, if it's zero here and it's spring semester, and you were awarded 500 but zero, that just means it hasn't been processed yet in the financial aid office. It'll still be going through. So
is it safe to say that with those grants, if you aren't meeting a full-time requirement at CSU, because I'm going 10 credits at CSU, 3 credits at Front Range, that those grants will go away? Because all my grants went away.
Good question. Yes, unfortunately, a lot of grants are required that you be full-time status. There's a couple exceptions. Pell Grant, which is the federal grant, Pell Grant you can get portions of. So actually, I'll scroll down. Pell Grant, if you're awarded, let's say, a total of $5,000 for the year, $2,600, and you're only in fall, you're full-time, great. You get that full amount, great. But in spring, you go down to less than 12 credits, say you're in 10 credits at CSU, they will award you 3/4 of the amount that they offered. So this could be the full amount. They'll take that and say, what's 3/4 of that? And instead offer you 1,000, I don't know, what is that? 1,000, like $800 or something like that. So you'll get a portion of Pell Grant, but not the full amount. Okay. The other things in here under, so grants, if you have questions about them, it's good to talk to financial aid a little bit more. They have a lot of information about grants and how they work. There's a couple of grants that won't be listed right away that you could be eligible for. If you're in a dire circumstance during a semester, financially strapped, financially, and let's say an emergency comes up or you get into some sort of thing comes up for you in a semester that really sets you back, there are emergency grants available. They're institutional CSU grants. We have advocated for our students to receive them in the past. Just talk to your retention specialist. That can get the ball rolling to see if you're eligible to then get one of those emergency grants to get some help to get through the semester. Okay, those can cover cost of not just tuition stuff, not just what's on your bill, but if you have emergency payments outside of CSU as well, they can help with that, right? So just talk to them. about it, there's ways to get some support. Okay, that's the most important thing, is just communicate. Grants also don't always exist year to year. So another important thing is, I'll give an example. If a student is awarded a grant one semester and it's like the CSU tuition assistance grant, depending on what you submit in FAFSA and what comes through for your financial aid for next year, you might not be awarded that same grant next year. That's important to remember. Grants aren't always a given. And then scholarships, those are the ones you'll need to kind of put a little bit more into. And I know we're getting close to end here, so I want to make sure I cover scholarship information. Does anyone have any questions, though, about grants or scholarships before I get into it? Okay, scholarships. Now I want to talk about scholarship searching. And I did want to talk a little bit about loans too, but scholarships are offered to students once you apply. Usually you have to apply to them. They're not going to just like give you it off the bat without applying. Very rarely will that happen. So scholarships you have to apply for. There's different deadlines for tons of different scholarships. The biggest one I'll kind of focus on for a second is the CSU scholarship application, CSUSA. It's due March 1st, so in a few weeks. I'll talk about a couple of important, helpful resources for that before we get into it, but before we wrap up. With scholarships, you'll want to definitely pay attention to deadlines and whatnot. And I pulled up here a helpful thing, if I can find where I put it. Yeah, pull this over. So under the Office of Financial Aid website, there's a couple of tools actually that are kind of hidden that can help students search for scholarships. One of those tools, if you went to the main Office of Financial Aid, FinAid, Financial Aid, collegestate.edu, scroll all the way down here, click on, where is it? They changed their website, sorry, give me 1 second. Important financial aid guides, where is it? Nicola, do you remember? Here we go. Okay, so it's under here, under types of financial aid, scholarships. Obviously, apply to the CSUSA, fill out the general application. That's like the main thing it talks about here. It's through RamWeb. You'll want to make sure you fill out at least the general app. Within the CSU scholarship application, though, there are additional scholarships you can apply for that require sometimes an additional letter of reference, letter of recommendation, or an additional essay. Those ones actually might luck out and get more. There's the odds are with you that if you apply for those, you're more likely to get them because less students do that. Most students just do the general app. And I would encourage all students to go above and beyond and do some of those additional scholarships. You're going to be more likely to receive them. There's another one here, scholarships affiliated with CSU that require supplemental application. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. You can click on this and there's going to be additional scholarships that aren't part of the CSUSA that you can still receive. So if you're like, I want to apply for more scholarships, how do I do that? Boom, here's one way. Now then the other hidden link I think that students should definitely know about, it's not really that hidden, scholarships outside of CSU. Clicking on this is going to bring up a search engine for scholarships that are national or statewide. And there's a ton on this page. If you scroll all the way down, that's page 1 out of 35. Okay, so each of these pages has about this many scholarships on it. What you can do is paying attention to deadlines. Over here, these are the deadlines for them. This one's coming up in 2 days. You can search for specific things. First generation, do that. If you're a first generation student and you want to search for a scholarship that applies to you more, or your identities or your experiences, boom. These scholarships might all have keywords in it that triggered from first gen. So a lot of these might be specifically for first gen students. And there's a lot here. Looks like a lot of them have ended, but this needs to be updated. So there's a new cycle of scholarship coming out this spring and this summer. So take a look again for these, right? You can continue to apply through these throughout the year. So just pay attention to the deadlines. Somebody previously asked about like identity piece. Like, are there any specific scholarships based on your identity of like being Latino, Latina, Latinx, or being Asian, Asian American, like things like that? You can search for that and those things might come up. If you're a vet, right, that might be a part of it. If there are scholarships for all kinds of different things that you might have experienced, definitely look a little bit more into, okay? That's important. Definitely take advantage of scholarship searches. So scholarships page here under types of financial aid has a few good links, scholarship affiliated with CSU and outside of CSU, to do some additional searching. The last tip I'll give, talk to financial aid. They might be able to also help you go through some scholarship search processes. And the last thing I'll say on that too is your advisor in your academic college also should be getting notifications and notifications of, hey, these scholarships are available for College of Engineering students. These scholarships are available just for pre-vet students or whatever. Definitely do that. Nicolette, thank you for posting that in the chat. She posted the Austin Financial Aid Scholarship page in the chat there. And then the last thing I'll say on the scholarship searching thing, we have a couple of important workshops coming up, and then I know we're out of time here, so I want to mention the workshops. Where did my page go? Actually this next week, wow, hold on. There we go. Okay, next week we have, I think it's here at the bottom, CSUSA FAFSA workshop. You want more information? We have 2 hours set aside, 2 different days. You can pop in. The link will be added on the AAC website the day before. You can email your retention specialist if you want to know more about that. It's also going to be in the newsletter. The newsletter we send out every week. Ricky's going to put a big flyer about CSUSA FAFSA workshops. He already has been. So pay attention to the newsletter we send out. But on February 16th, February 24th, you can just pop in. You don't have to go for the full 2 hours. Get some additional support on either FAFSA, CSUSA, or if you're a student who fills out CAFSA, which is the Colorado application for student aid. It's different than the federal one. That's mainly for students who don't qualify for FAFSA support. So definitely check that out. We also have an essay writing workshop. If you want some help on how to write better essays, how to get some support, what's the best way to write my essays, or how do I have my letters of recommendation? How do they know what to write about me? What do I send them? Is there a template? Send them your resume, right? But we'll do a writing workshop on February 18th for 2 hours. You can pop in. Here's the Zoom link. I hope you all are able to copy and paste this. Should I put it in the chat real quick? Let me put it in the chat. So this is
the program you were talking about, not qualifying for FAFSA. Does that count for when your FAFSA runs out? Can you apply for that? Or?
You can, yes, because federal aid is different than Colorado aid. It's mostly for students who are undocumented that wouldn't qualify for federal aid. But yes, you can actually look into that. Colorado aid might have some different rules around what they can give you. That's a great question, Jason. Thanks.
It's Colorado aid, or is it that C4E, or I'm sorry?
Oh, it's CAFSA, Colorado application for free student aid, CAFSA.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So definitely go to that. We also want you to remember financial aid stuff, FAFSA and CSUSA are due March 1st. And then the billing due date, right, around the 10th or 11th this month, kind of keep that in mind. I didn't get into loans, and I usually like to spend some time talking about how to debunk the scariness of loans and how to talk about the differences of loans. But if you want to know more, talk to your retention specialist. We get to trained a lot on what the loans are and the differences there. Are there any last questions? And I'll let students head out if you need to, but are there folks who want to stick around and ask questions? I'm here. Cool. If you don't have questions, you can head out. Thank you. Thanks, Denise. We'll see you next week. And those are the